Welcome back, everybody. This is Dan and Anthony with the Pregame Network podcast. We are on episode 9 today, so excited about that. Almost at double digits.
Very exciting.
This past week has been okay for news all around. Today, in particular, has been really good for the games that I like to play.
Yes,
but I'm just gonna go into what I've been playing right now because I'm sure it's gonna be like almost the same as you, but we've been playing the finals lately, and it's been a lot of fun.
No, yeah, it's way. I mean, I'll be honest, I had no expectations, so I'm sure that helps quite a bit. But no, I've been having a decent amount of fun with it.
Yeah, I'm genuinely elated that you are enjoying it as much as you are, because I know that you're hard to impress. You're hard to make an impression on. So I'm glad that you received that this game as well as you did. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I still think it definitely needs like some more content overall, because right now I think that the devs are just putting all their efforts into all the cosmetics and the shit that you can buy, which is, I mean, whatever. But
it's a season 2 free to play shooter, so I mean there's gonna be some slack somewhere. It can't all be perfect. I think obviously we've been enjoying it as we said. I think something that would be nice is if they kind of like, because I think a lot of the game is balanced around fun. I don't think they have any hyper competitive balancing, at least not yet, as far as I can tell. I want them to like unrestrict destruction just a little. Like, I think more weapons should have an effect on the environment.
Oh, okay.
Like, I think, like, for example, like, I'm a bit biased because I've been using the grenade launcher. I feel like it takes way too many shots to like start doing structural damage, but that's just me. But overall, I mean,
and you actually blow a hole in a wall with that thing?
Yeah, it just takes like 4 shots.
Oh,
and the clip size is 4, I think, or 5. It's 4 or 5.
It is. Well, for the China Lake, the pump action grenade launcher, it is 4 rounds.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah. I will tell you though, I don't know if you're going to agree with me or not, but the fact that you don't have a secondary weapon it just gets under my skin. There are so many firefights that I get into that I would be okay if I could just clean up my opponent with a pistol or something.
Yeah, I do think the lack of a secondary is a little much. Like, I don't want them to necessarily go out like a Call of Duty does, because I don't think the game is really balanced around that. But like,
oh no,
even like
not.
Even if you're like up close in a firefight, right? Like the melees are like love taps.
Yeah, they're nothing. They're nothing.
Yeah,
and there's no lunge mechanic whatsoever either.
Yeah, and it's just, I don't know. I see what you're saying, and it makes some firefights a little awkward. But I mean, luckily, the game around it is still very fun.
Yeah, and I think that like my particular playstyle and loadout choice is not helping that complaint for me, because I really love the Model 1887 shotgun, and that's kind of the only gun that I use, at least right now. And if I don't hit an enemy with like at least 3 shots for a perfect kill, then I'm gonna have to reload at some point. And I only have 6 rounds in the magazine to kill somebody with the models. So if I don't kill them within that one magazine, and I don't get them with like the pyro grenade because it explodes on impact, then I'm kind of fucked. So I think that's why it's been bothering me so much. Like, if I switch to like the MP5, or when I'm playing the heavy, the LMG is really nice. But beyond that, it's just, it boils my blood when someone's like fucking absolute health and I'm powerless to do anything about it.
Yeah, you mentioned, the secondary gear, and that's kind of what you need to leverage in order to like set up kill shots or finish people off a certain way. I think the gear is really neat. Yeah, go ahead.
I said, but when you get a kill with the models, it's so satisfying.
There's a lot of satisfying weapons in the game, and like I was getting at with the gear, is you can really play around a lot with your kit and what you exactly go into. You could go full explosives you want, like grenade, incendiary grenade, mines. but sometimes it doesn't hurt to have different gadgets and whatnot to kind of get around a bit more. So I think that's probably why they don't focus too much on weapons or giving you multiple weapons, is because they're so flippant, I guess, or they're very loose with like the gear, especially with everything being cooldown based and not ammunition pile based.
Right. Yeah. But I am enjoying my time with the game overall. I think it's a lot of fun. The destruction is great. But as like my style of play, I've got, or my class rather, my preferred class, I've got no way of manipulating the destructible environments around me. So that, I mean, it's whatever. That's something for another class, I guess. But for a game that prides itself on the destruction, of which it is great, I have no way of like making a play involving blowing up a wall or a floor or whatever. That's probably on me, honestly. Beyond the finals, I mean, nothing out of the ordinary. I know,
like on the topic of the finals, because I know like we've both separately tried it. We haven't played it together. You tried X-Define a little bit, right?
I actually played 2 matches before I left my house today. And I haven't played enough to like really form a full opinion on it. However, it's still, I don't know. Maybe I was just not doing that great in the last match that I played, but it's I could definitely see where the devs were trying to point it. As far as how they want it to feel. Like, it's not, I was really concerned that the whole hero shooter thing was gonna like take over the X-Defiant identity, so to speak. But it really doesn't, which is nice. I think that they played it really reserved with all the abilities for the different characters, which is probably the best thing that they could have done. The gunplay, on the other hand, it feels too much like Black Ops 4 to me. I was getting slapped around in my handful of matches that I played.
I can kind of see that. Black Ops 4 is actually a really good comparison, because it really does strike me as if Ubisoft wanted to take on the COD formula. And it's obviously way more grounded as far as movement goes than Black Ops 4, because Black Ops 4 you were flying all over the place. I played it a little bit too. With a couple matches by myself, a couple matches with the party, and my takeaway on it is this, and I think it's also tough because being another free to play fighter, it doesn't have like that bombastic fun factor that what did I say?
You said fighter.
I've been playing fighting games all day. I'm so fucking sorry. No, so it doesn't. It's what I'm saying is I think it has the misfortune of being right next to the finals, which is a bit more like it's just, there's a fun factor in the finals that
there's different lanes
really
though. I think
no, that's what I'm saying. But that makes it difficult, is because they are in different lanes, and that makes it difficult for X-Defiant, which is. It's dated in a lot of ways. It's a lot more restrictive in its unlocks. It's tough. Like I feel bad because it does feel like a sturdy shooter. Like it's competent. It's a very well built.
Probably the best compliment you can give it is that it's competent.
Yeah, it's because like the guns handle well, the gunplay handles well. It's just. And you kind of hit the nail on the head where it's just like you were wary about the hero shooter aspect of it, but like the abilities aren't really that overbearing or
not.
Like
and I was
over
really
the top.
concerned about that.
Yeah, it's like the kill streaks kind of are, but like you don't really get those unless you're like repeating things up.
I don't know if I was doing something wrong or I just wasn't playing good, but in the handful of matches that I played, I did not earn my ultimate ability one fucking time.
They have very, very high requirements, and for good reason. I mean, I haven't tried all of them, but like the echelon, the one that they have,
it's just like wall hacks, right?
It's wall hacks and a pistol that kills, as far as I can tell, in one hit,
in one shot. So, it's like Sam Fisher's pistol or something.
Something to that degree. I will say that because you mentioned Sam Fisher, and obviously all the different factions are different Ubisoft properties. I think that was a very smart move on their part, even if the characters are kind of the characters kind of strike me as that, like, that very, you know, diverse demographic checkbox ticking kind of thing.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of unavoidable, and that kind of sucks. But leveraging the IPs in that way is very, very smart on Ubisoft's part, because they sit on those IPs and they do next to nothing with them. So
I saw a comment on a video I was watching earlier today. Actually, it's almost like the Super Smash Brothers equivalent of first person shooters right now. With
you could look at it that it's like that to a degree. I will say, I mean, people make that comparison because it's easy and there's nothing really else to compare it to.
Yeah,
like a Smash Brothers. Like I would say that would be more apt if they had characters that you knew in there. But then you run the risk is just like at that point they would go full hero shooter instead of partial hero shooter, where it's like factions with the same cluster of abilities, you know.
Like if they had like Sam Fisher, like they would need to have some other like overpowered ability.
Yeah, you would.
Within that faction.
Yeah, you would essentially be drifting into Rainbow Six Siege territory, but making it more like Overwatch. It would be weird. I don't know. You could pull it off, but it's like I'm being nitpicky with that guy's one comment.
No, but you kind of have to be, because you're not wrong about that.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, not terrible. It definitely didn't grip me quite like the finals. And like you said, it's kind of unfair to compare different lanes and all that. You know, finals, you're jumping around and destroying shit. X-Defiant is very much a grounded, you know, small arena shooter. The one thing I did appreciate about X-Defiant, it doesn't have the Call of Duty problem where they make the maps just a little too big. All the maps seemed reasonably sized from what I played.
They were, that was a big decent plus. Maps. Yeah, big plus. But I haven't played it enough to really have like a concrete opinion. That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Because I felt like I was getting slapped around. I really did, and maybe I'm just not used to that the game yet, which is very possible.
Yeah. I will say that I had one really, really good match, and then like I kind of struggled a little bit, like, and then having a similar experience to you. It could just be, you know, flukes and not getting used to it and jumping around different games. I wouldn't, you know.
People still doing the fucking bunny hops and movement shit from that is so ingrained in the player base.
Exactly. I see them doing it in the finals too. It's crazy. But like I said, like we actually talked about this a while ago when we were talking about Call of Duty's kind of grip on that particular genre, and I said it would be really nice that even if you don't go toe to toe with Call of Duty, we saw a few people try and like actually do new shooters so that there's at least some kind of competition. So even though, you know, X-Defiant isn't necessarily, it didn't wow me, the finals is obviously in a different class, but it's nice to see these two attempts in the space. So like even if I don't stick with necessarily one or both of them, I'm having a decent enough time, and I'm glad they're there. Like there needs to be that kind of competition.
Right. I mean, look, you can't blame them for trying either. It's not a bad game. It's the highest compliment you can give it right now is that it's a competent shooter. They didn't go overboard with the hero abilities. Yeah. It feels good enough to play. It didn't. The microtransactions in that game did not seem in my face at all in my brief time with it, which is like super high praise for me. And I need to play it more, really. So that's really what it comes down to for me. But the finals is fucking great. I'm having such a good time with it. I just think it needs more variety in weapons specifically. I think it has plenty of gadgets. And the map's choice is fine. I think it needs more weapons per class, in my humble opinion. But who the fuck am I?
They could be something to experiment with. I mean, this is the game's second season, so I'm sure they've heard it by this point. If that complaint is prevalent, or they know that even if it's not a direct complaint, it is like one of the areas that the game is lacking, because it's fairly common for engagements to end like that. So unless they're purely leaning on it to be like, hey, because the game mode we play the most of is the 5v5 mode, but the game was built around
shift.
yeah, but the game was built around, you know, the cash out mode or whatever it's called, where it's like multiple teams of 3. So maybe they're trying to enforce teamwork with that particular.
I will say,
who knows?
The Power Shift game mode is the most fun I've had with the finals so far, and that came with season 2. It's so much fun. Just the one gimmick of the platform just barreling through anything in its path is such a simple yet effective twist on like a hardpoint style game mode. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah. No, it's a ton of fun.
They need to add more modes like that leverage the destruction.
Yeah, I do think we could have more fun with the 3v3 mode, but the 5v5 is definitely the way to go. I think for the maximum amount of fun. I think we had a couple good games with the 3v3 mode. But I think our problem is like by the end of our try at it, we weren't really communicating or directing it. Like that mode requires more direction. It's almost closer to a battle royale and where you need to communicate a bit more. And I think if you're asleep at the wheel from playing the other mode, you're gonna have less of a fun time in this mode. So,
but I think that's about it as far as what we've been playing. I don't know if you've been going beyond X Defiant in the finals, but that's definitely that's it for me.
Yeah. So as for me, there were a few things I played. Obviously, once again, fighting games. Play a lot of fighting games. I've hung up, you know, because me and Harrison, we play fight. Like he's the guy I play all the fighting games with. That's how the two of us get better and have the most fun with it. We put down Marvel vs. Capcom. We've been playing it for like a month, and we went back to Street Fighter because this is their big next season patch. So we tried that out. The character Akuma, he came back, so we've been playing a lot of that. We before this podcast, I was playing it with him for we played like 3 hours, and so that was a lot of fun. Wow. We tested out a lot of the new things. Have a lot of that. We'll have something up tomorrow for Fighting Fridays, as far as that concerns. So playing a lot of Street Fighter. I'm gearing up to play other fighting games for other projects. But other than that, on a whim, somebody recommended me this. It's a psychological horror game, which really, you know, that's not really my cup of tea. I think in some project I worked on, I forget exactly which one, I described psychological horror as like a cancerous tumor that has grown on the side of survival horror, because a lot of them are like walking sims, and you know, there's not a lot of gameplay. And this one was kind of like this. It's called Avarice. It's basically a short story, and it was fine for what it is. It had a decent atmosphere. Missed out on a couple things. Basically, you're playing as a guy who's reminiscing about his wife who had died while it was lost at sea. I think the way it handles its storytelling is a little wonky, because a lot of these games are very much, you know, show don't tell, because of how long or short they happen to be. But I was picking up items, and whoever was the voice actor for this guy was basically sitting there waxing poetic at me for like sentence after sentence after sentence, and I'm just like, this just throws off the whole pacing, and the game was short enough as it is, so it kind of took away from the experience. But it looked nice. It was, you know, it's not my kind of game, so I can't really say much about it. But it was called Avarice.
Avarice. Okay. Yeah. Because that sounds extremely similar to Hellblade 2 that just dropped. That's like 5 hours long, and people are not liking it. I haven't played. I haven't touched it.
We can talk about. People are
not enjoying it.
We can talk about Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, whatever it's called. I think that's the actual full title at a certain point, because I don't think it's for either of us, but that's something else. But yeah, so I played that one horror game, and it was kind of nice. A little missed potential in there, but it was kind of nice. Most recently, or not most recently, but something I said I would be doing, and this will kind of lead into, you know, some of the news, is I sat down and I started Assassin's Creed Origins.
Oh, and God! Oh, that's right. You did say you were going to do this. I just can't. Yeah, I'm not a fan of new ones. So
a little bit of context. My experience with Assassin's Creed, I didn't necessarily like it. Like Joe, obviously, he's a huge Assassin's Creed fan. He's talked about it quite a bit.
Is he really? He likes it that much?
Well, he likes 1 to 3. Like, he's an original
don't
fan.
We all?
Yeah. So basically, my experience with the original 3 is I enjoyed it. I liked it for what it was. I wasn't a huge fan, but I liked it.
Right.
I kind of liked Black Flag. It's definitely the best of the post 3 games, I think. I know
I would
Luke
agree
liked
with
it
that.
too.
My favorite one of all time was Brotherhood.
Brotherhood's a good one. I have a couple complaints about Assassin's Creed 2 because it feels like 2 and Brotherhood really should have been one game. It feels like 2 ends a little awkwardly, but that's besides the point. Basically, my history with Assassin's Creed post Black Flag is a little spotty. I got Unity as a tie-in game when I bought a graphics card, and I kind of enjoyed it. I got Syndicate on Games with Gold, and it was like, I don't know what's going on with this. The characters are all right, the settings are all right, I guess.
Played Syndicate.
Yeah, it was all right. It's forgettable, but it's all right. The best part of that is probably the characters. I mean, most people that aren't looking for a yearly action game to just sit in front of them and kill time did check out. But obviously, so I've been orbiting the Assassin's Creed situation for a while because it's kind of like it's one of those tragic cases in the industry. My takeaway always looking at it is like, okay, so the combat it's not like an action game anymore. It's an action RPG with looting system based kind of thing, and where you want to get better gear to do better damage, blah blah blah. Assassinations aren't one-hit kills anymore, things like that. There's less of a focus on social stealth. So I knew all that going in, but still, when I booted up Origins, like I was actually like, it was like weird how it didn't, like, it was it played serviceably, but it was like, compared to just the smoother and unique experience of the prior titles, like I was surprised at how much poorer the experience was. Like there's a tutorial fight and it drags on because there's like a health bar above the guy and the numbers are popping up like it's Final Fantasy and it doesn't feel right. The second I kill the guy, I loot something off of him and it's already throwing me into the gear system, which doesn't feel like Assassin's Creed in the slightest. Assassin's Creed is at its best when you get armor that's cosmetic and occasionally you get upgrades to like a traditional action game, and then you can upgrade certain things a certain way, but it was never about gear. When there was gear involved, it was mostly customization, except for like stuff you get at the very end is like a bonus unlockable for doing everything in the game, like the armor of Altair and stuff like that. The movement didn't feel nearly as good. I think it's because they basically relegated movement all to like the analog stick and 2 buttons instead of like high profile, low profile moves. It so far I'm like, everything I had assumed about the game based on looking at it and brief plays and watching other people play it. It's basically they turned Assassin's Creed as close as they could into The Witcher, and then from there they started pumping them out yearly, and whatever good I'm going to get from this experience will always be taken down a notch by how they took the series from a gameplay standpoint and a story standpoint, where they abandoned the modern story. But that's the only other game I really played. I'm still playing Prey on the side. I'm at the point where it's like I either need to finish it or drop it because it's taking up way too much of my fucking time. Not because it's hard or dense. Dense games are good, well-paced, dense games are really good. It's just, it's not hooking me. Like the hook is gone now. So we'll see if I beat that by next week, because if it's not beaten by next week, I'm probably not going to beat it. Yeah. So basically where I wanted to go from this is like, obviously Assassin's Creed Shadows or Shadow. Is it Shadow or Shadows?
Right. Shadows, plural?
I think it's Shadows, plural. So that got announced. I can't even remember when.
It did. That got announced and immediately overshadowed by the Ghost of Tsushima PC port.
Which has its own issues going on there with the multiplayer tie-in. That has its own issues with the region.
It's Shadows, plural.
Okay, so Assassin's Creed Shadows got announced, and I gotta say, for anyone who was like hanging on since the old days, I feel bad for them, because it's just like obviously elephant, not really an elephant in the room, but the big thing everybody's arguing about is Yasuke. Is that how you pronounce it? I've been jokingly pronouncing it Yasuke because I'm a jackass, and I've the original pronunciations flown out of my goddamn head, but it's Yasuke, and he is this historical figure, and everybody's getting bent out of shape. Because on the one hand, you have like the virtue signaling guys who are just like, oh, you just hate black people. You can't have a black samurai. This is such a win because he was a real person in history. And then you have all the people on the other side that are saying like, I mean, he did exist, but there's a couple of problems. Like, number one,
well, that's a caveat to his existence.
He did exist. The thing about his existence is that we know very little about it. Most people seem to agree he was never a samurai, so you're just kind of inflating him because, you know, this is like you're into the culture. But that, you know, aside from the fact that they're lying about history and positing it as complete fact when it's always been disputed. Like, this guy's been in fiction for quite a while. The Japanese guys love using him because it adds a little bit to different stories. He was in Neo, he was in Dynasty Warriors, he's been in other things because when you have because here's the thing, when you have a character like that in your history, even if you can't use him like verbatim because he doesn't have much going on, we really know little about him. He was a slave. He got sold and released, or he was like gifted. I forget exactly what, but he ended up in Japan, and he was there very briefly. His master died, and then his master's son died, and then he was essentially sold back into slavery, and he vanished from history. That's basically what happened to him. That's the most people will be like, oh well, people make this argument about him. He's like, oh, you know, he was a samurai because this, but it was never officially declared as a samurai. They're just assuming based on where he was, you know. Okay. But now he's a samurai in this game, and it's bothering historical buffs, it's bothering Assassin's Creed fans, and it's bothering, you know, apparently the Japanese, who are up in arms about this, which is crazy for multiple reasons, because the Japanese people, even the most adamant fans out there of things, are very passive and apologetic people. So to get them up in arms on public social media, not just the underground forums and whatever, that's pretty fucking impressive. Apparently the Japanese trailer has a substantial amount of dislikes or something like that. But anyway, like I was saying, I think it's pretty miserable, like, because people have been begging for a Japanese Assassin's Creed
since the beginning,
forever. But like, I would say it really took off after Black Flag. I think after Black Flag was when people really went in on saying, okay, we've done all this, it's time for Japan. Like, I think like somebody made this mock-up of like Assassin's Creed 5 Red Sun, and little did that guy know that it was going to be like 8 Assassin's Creeds later, and then they were going to pull this nonsense. Personally, for me, aside from the fact that I don't like it, like, you can do nonfiction, you can do alternate history. That's fine with me. I don't mind that. It's when you posit something as completely true when it's absolute bullshit, which obviously you probably know I'm fucking miserable in this day and age because that happens all the fucking time. But I can't stand that. And I also think it's a slap in the face to fans who have waited this long and stuck it out, and Japanese fans and Japanese people, that when you finally got to Japan, you went out of your way to go to the one anecdote in history where you could shoehorn a black person in there and lied about the entire thing the only way. Because I look at it, it's like, you know, every protagonist up to this point, from the games I've played and the mainline games I'm aware of, were characters native to that region. They were fictional characters. Now, people are also pointing out, like, oh, there's a Japanese character right there, because there's 2 protagonists in the game. That doesn't take away from the fact that, you know, what they did, because they didn't go there right immediately. They didn't say like, oh, well, if you don't want to play as this guy, you can play as the chick, which is more in line with what other people wanted in the first place anyway. But they didn't lead with that. They led with like a week of lying about history and calling everybody who didn't like it racist when that wasn't the case. Because like I said,
this
guy,
like Battlefield 5 to me.
Yeah, exactly. Because people were pointing out like people were doing ridiculous things. Like, people said like, why didn't you have a problem with the movie The Last Samurai? Well, anyone who watched the movie knows that the guy on the cover isn't actually the last samurai. It's just an American who's there, and he's with the last of the samurai, you know? And people point to Neo. It's like, why didn't you have a problem with this? Is it because he's white? It's like, no, it's because this guy is a well-established person in history, and they're not retelling his life. They're putting him in a situation where he's fighting demons in Japan. That's why people didn't get mad about that. And on top of that, Yusuke's in that game, in Neo, as like a side character, and nobody gave a shit when that happened either. So it's all a bunch of bullshit. But I think, because this was a segue from what we played, I don't think it's gonna fucking matter, because it's just gonna be another slop like
I have
fucking
no faith in this game.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm gonna play these games, and I can guarantee you this is what my takeaway is going to be. I'm not poisoning the well. I'm just saying, like, this is what they're going to be subpar action games with some nice little bits here and there. I'll probably, like, I can kind of tell I'm going to like some of the characters, because some of the characters from what I've seen are nice characters.
Okay.
And then I'm going to walk away saying, well, it's not the old Assassin's Creed. It's not as good as, like, a new action game of the time. Like, from what I've played of The Witcher 3, the gameplay was already, it handled better. It was more entertaining than what I've had with Assassin's Creed so far.
The Witcher 3.
It's I mean, the only comparison I can give right now is that it's better than an average Assassin's Creed, because Assassin's Creed dished and watered down what made Assassin's Creed great. So it is what it is, but we'll see where that goes. I am curious to see what happens, because it's one of those situations where it's beyond, is it going to be a shitty game of the year? It's basically people have turned it into a monument where now it stands for something. So now it's part of this, cultural war that we're part of. So I'm curious to see where it goes from there, because a lot of the early metrics are people fluffing up like, oh, look, it's selling well already. Pre-orders are through the roof. I'm just like, Saints Row, the reboot, they said the same exact thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were apparently at like 120%, pre-orders. They were very optimistic about it. So I don't know.
That game was so bad that the studio closed.
Yeah, killed Volition.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I mean, Assassin's Creed Shadows, the cinematic preview released, and like, I felt nothing. I was honestly completely apathetic to it. Yeah. There was nothing about the game that I care about. Assassin's Creed has fallen so far from grace for me that I just don't care anymore. Yeah. I don't know, and I don't even know what they could do to bring me back as like an OG fan. When I played the game, the OG Assassin's Creed back in, what was it, 2007?
Around then, yeah.
Yeah,
it was early Xbox 360 life.
Right. It was such a new, groundbreaking idea that was like a bold take on the open world type of action game. Everyone loved it. It was so good. And then it just spiraled, man. It just fucking spiraled. And
yeah, it's one of the many breakout hits from that generation. Like we've talked before about it. That
spawned a cancerous, like, alternate timeline version of itself.
Yeah,
that it's become so morally bankrupt and devoid of any kind of soul that makes those great games that we grew up with great anymore. And now I'm depressing myself.
Yeah, it's sad for what it is. But the last thing I'll kind of say, just because I don't want to harp on it too much, and I kind of wish Joe was here for that, but I think one of the biggest problems, aside from the fact that it's just kind of like a shell as far as the overall feel and the mechanics are concerned, is like there's no like line anymore. Like, it's the central modern plot is just like fractured. Like, they tried to carry on without Desmond and all those characters in the traditional way they'd been doing it, and it just kind of like, it fell flat for me. It felt that way when I played Black Flag. It felt that way when I played Syndicate. It felt that way when I played Rogue. It's just like there's no through line. And it struggles, and like, I apparently
kind of becoming like a Final Fantasy, but worse.
In a way, but like, they're trying something now, because like there's apparently like the main character is like their take on Loki or something like that. Like, I guess I'll know more when I get through this, but it's just like it's a fucking mess from top to bottom. But you'll have people, you'll argue with people online. They're just like, nobody else is putting out games where I can waste 80 hours in an action game on a yearly basis. I'm just like, is that the metric that they just they add shit? It's just like they dumped the looter aspect into it, and that just like that jangles the keys in front of you now. Like, that's all it takes. We don't care about.
Actually,
that's sad. But on the bright side, those people, they don't really matter. Like, if you find, like, let's say like you like, it's you and two other people in the room. One's a consumer that's going to consume everything and anything that you put in front of him, and the other guy is the guy trying to ruin your industry. If you get rid of the guy that's trying to ruin your industry, that guy to your left, he's not going to fight you. He's going to put something in front of me. I want it. So it's like, even though there are there's a bunch of morons eating shit up constantly, that number goes down little by little as you wake more people up. And at the end of the day, if you save your industry, you still have these mindless consumers. They'll buy anything. So why wouldn't they buy your good shit too?
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's my take on Assassin's Creed. One of the like, it's an example of like everything wrong with the industry right now. There you go.
Gosh. All right. Well, what else we got? What else happened this week? What else do you got?
Oh, it's kind of a small thing. Did you see Neil Druckmann came out and he said he was like jazzing up like whatever's next for Naughty Dog? I forget.
Redefining gaming.
Exactly. I'm not gonna look up his quote because this guy's such a blowhard idiot. He's they're gonna redefine gaming in the mainstream. It's like, one, I don't trust you. Two, I don't trust modern Naughty Dog. Three, I don't want games to be more mainstream. I need them to be less mainstream. So it's just like, I'm not like, it's gonna be a third person shooter or action game with slow cinematic walking segments. I saw Eric posted something. He said some guy made a joke. It's like, oh, he's talking about The Last of Us Part 1 and 2 collection. That's what he's talking about. He's gonna redefine mainstream gaming with that. But
they have released so many remaster remakes, whatever the fuck, of both of those games. What do they do over there?
Hold
on,
do
they work on anything new?
Hold on, I'm gonna look this up because let's see. I gotta see if I can find it because it's
gonna be The Last of Us 1 and 2 remix.
Okay, hold on. I gotta find this. I gotta find this because great. I forget. I was talking to Nicole or John. Let's see. Okay, here's the. Oh, I was talking to Steve about this, and I said, there is reboot fatigue, is what I was getting at. I was talking to Eric, and I said, this is Naughty Dog's catalog since 2013. The Last of Us, 2013. The Last of Us Left Behind, 2013. The Last of Us Remastered, 2014. Uncharted 4, and then Uncharted The Lost Legacy, and then The Last of Us Part 2, 2020. The Last of Us Part 1, which is a remake of the first Last of Us, 2022. The Last of Us Part 1 PC port, 2023. The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, 2024. Like, that's... I think I missed like one game in there, but like that's all they've done for the last 11 years. That's insane. Is two Last of Us games, and from those Last of Us games, expansions and remasters and remakes for a total of 7 Last of Us experiences.
That's crazy.
And outside of that, they did like one Uncharted game and then an asset flip of that Uncharted game. So it's like, I don't know. I remember Jack and Daxter?
Oh, please don't even get me. For everybody out there that doesn't know me, that is actually listening to this, I have a big Jack and Daxter tattoo on my fucking chest. Mm-hmm. I loved that trilogy. I loved it so much. Phenomenal. We grew up on those games. That's like what we bonded over as children.
Yeah,
like
that's one of the many things that we had.
Yeah, that trilogy is one of the best experiences in gaming that I have the memory of. I fucking love Jack and Daxter. Like, I remember when Jack 1, the Precursor Legacy, came out, and we beat it like independently, and then we beat it together. And then I remember when Jack 2 was announced, and having the thought, like, at that time, like, this franchise is aging and growing up as I am doing the same, like, as I'm aging and growing up as well.
We were in the perfect age range to get like the most out of that.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. Everything about it was phenomenal. And oh god, if they made a Jack 4 or they remaster I will settle for a remake of any of those 3 games. Please give me more Jack and Daxter.
Like, I want more Jack and Daxter. I don't know if Naughty Dog's up to it. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'm just saying. So good. It's so good. Yeah. The lore was so ripe. The fucking story and the characters were fantastic. For the time, the gameplay was great.
I still think the Precursor Legacy is one of the best platformers ever made. If not, it's the best Sony platformer ever made.
Yeah, I'll get behind you on that one.
Yeah,
it's so good. And then just Jack 2 would, like, they let you loose in the city, and then and then in Jack 3 you had light and dark Jack.
And you had like
great stuff.
Huge desert to explore. It was
the wasteland and the city. You could take your the car out and go hunt like bandits or something. And I don't even.
It was a lot of fun.
It's so long. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun and also a technical marvel. There's a lot of things that went into how Jack and Daxter, the precursor, like all of them are pretty impressive for the console, but Jack 1 had a lot going on under the hood in order to make the game like a seamless world. You know, how there was like minimal load screens, and like you could just, if you really wanted to, you could go from point A to point B in the world with like a handful, maybe 3 at most, like elevator sequences. But like the rest of it was like, it was code written to handle day and night cycles and weather effects, and being able to like load the world appropriately so you could just go and do it with like no loading screens. And it like leveraged the PlayStation 1 chip in the PlayStation 2 to balance that. It's a technical marvel, the first one, but like there's a lot of cool things but the takeaway is that the series is great. That's really all there is to it.
And I've seen like pieces of concept art for what would have been a new Jack game, like Jack 4 or something. And it makes me sad because it could have been something special.
Yeah, because I'll agree with you there, just because that stuff was still when Naughty Dog was still somewhat salvageable. It was before people started leaving. It was before like the industry brain drain was very prevalent or common. So missed opportunities.
Yeah, and look, at least we still have the Ratchet and Clank series is still going strong. Like they're still making good games. They're not like long or super deep, but they're good.
Yeah, like what I'll say about Rift Apart is there are some sequences that kind of get hit by like all of the same shit that we bitch about like in the game proper, but overall it's a solid game. The real issue with Ratchet and Clank, like aside from all the little small chipping away and just from certain people worming their way into the development team and doing things a certain way, is they're saddled with the same ridiculous marketing and development bloat. So their cost is way too high, and when you have top level executives looking at that, and like, what do you like? How much support could you feasibly get if you keep putting out these small projects that are bloated by unnecessary costs? You know, like apparently they've got one more in the pipeline, but like I hope they stick it out and find a way to trim the fat so they can just keep making good games.
Give me another Jack game. Give it to me. Yeah. All right, so what else we got? Today was a great day for Destiny and Warhammer alike. There was a new Viaduct that was put out by Bungie for the final shape. I'm not really going to go that into it because if you're into Destiny, you have seen this already. There's more info on the final shape of the story and where we're going.
You know me, huge into Destiny.
Fuck off. Coming on June 4th. And actually, one thing that I do want to point out that I found super cool was that they created a new language for the new enemy race that's directly translatable. Yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Looking forward to that. But the Warhammer Skulls event was today, and they announced a ton of new Warhammer gaming stuff for the property. And so we have to talk about this. The Space Marine 2 customization like the PvE trailer essentially showcased exactly the customization that I was hoping for in my What It Needs video. And I am beyond fucking hyped for this right now. It looks so fucking good. It looks so good. You can get different armor pieces from different factions and get skins for your weapons that are like reminiscent. They have like purity seals on them and blessings and shit. It looks so fucking cool. I don't know if they confirmed like an actual horde mode, but there are different campaigns for the co-op mode aside from the main aside from the main campaign, like the story of the game. I can't wait for this game. If nothing else, Saber has proven itself to be a competent developer that gives the audience of the games that they are developing what they want, and have like, you don't hear about them a lot in the news, and that is the best thing that I could say about them right now. They keep their heads down. They work on their shit. They deliver games and content and experiences that the fans want. Like World War Z is another big one. They're having like this event that's going on this weekend for Double XP. That game is still kicking and still it's got its audience. And I am gonna play the fuck out of Space Marine 2. It looks so good. I can't wait. It looks
it looks like a
beautiful.
ton of fun.
Yeah. And there's a bunch of Warhammer games on Game Pass right now for the Skulls event, between like Inquisitor.
Okay. I also I was actually, before you did your whole thing where you were talking about it in the private chats, I did notice that like certain ones were popping up in my feed. There's one game that's free on both Epic Game Store and Steam right now, which is like kind of like a RTS, like a Civilization kind of game out there. So I definitely
wish they had
ripples.
Age of Empires style RTS game. Like, I don't like the turn-based.
They do. I just don't remember what it's called.
War.
Dawn of War.
It was Dawn of War. Yeah, but Total War Warhammer is a turn-based strategy game, and I just wish that there was a more of like a classic RTS.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like it exists. It's just that particular genre for Warhammer. Like they kind of have games in like every different genre. That one hasn't been touched since that game came out. I think that was 20 years ago.
I know. It was. It's been a long time, and they're putting in PvP into Space Marine 2 as well.
Oh yeah, they're loading up that game and everything.
I am so excited. I'm so excited. It's gonna be a blast. I can't wait. And then, so keeping with the Warhammer news, they announced a new update for Darktide called Secrets of the Machine God, I think. Putting in a new campaign, a new map, more penances, new weapons. I'm good day to be a Warhammer fan. I'm really looking forward to this. That is coming out soon. That's coming out in June. Yes, besides myself. I'm like the only one in our group that's like as into Warhammer as I am. Yeah. But yeah, so it's new content for Darktide. Oh, and Vermintide 2. Their PvP is coming out soon too. And they just got a 25 fucking gig free content update like today. Like that game is old by modern standards, and they give it a ton of support, and it's still got its audience. They had a big free content update today that was also bundled with like a quality of life patch as well. So that's cool. I'm probably gonna play that a little bit tonight, honestly. But it's good. Something else that just came to me as well. You know what bolt gun is, right? The boomer shooter, pixely FPS. That's getting a DLC pack as well, a new campaign and a horde mode. Thank God. All about that shit. I can't wait. I'm very excited. If you couldn't tell,
you sound absolutely thrilled. Your enthusiasm is palpable.
I'm jubilant from all the announcements today.
Fair. That's very fair. Yeah. You know me. I'm not as huge into the Warhammer universe. It's definitely I the best way I put it with Warhammer is like, typically when a Warhammer offering is put in front of me, I enjoy it, but I'm not necessarily as big into the lore and the world building, just because it's you said it before, it's hard to hook me. And in this day and age, when it's harder for me to get invested when there's even like little cracks as far as like influences and stuff like that. So like, I'll be there to play Darktide and whatnot with you, and hopefully Space Marine 2. I should be able to swing that by the time it comes around.
You better buy that shit and play with me.
It's a 3-player co-op game. It kind of seems perfect, don't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we should be playing that.
That's something like I kind of grapple with in my current gaming career right now. There's so many things out and about. Like there's so many offerings on the table. And I just don't possess the time to get to everything that I want to play. Like I want to play a decent amount of Vermintide. I want to play more Darktide. I want to start a new Cyberpunk playthrough. There's more Destiny shit that I want to do. I want to play X-Defiant and get a better handle on that game. I want to go back and play more Warhammer Inquisitor, like the ARPG. There's so much shit around. That's what they describe it as. Yeah.
I know, but it's that doesn't.
How would you
that's a
describe
semantic. It's an isometric.
Isometric. Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
The main reason I say that, you know me, I got in a stupid semantic fight about this a while ago. I'm gonna keep getting in them, but it's like for every like over the last like 2 decades, there's been like this effort to like just make new genres and subgenres and redundant genres. But for some reason, we're calling games like Diablo and Warhammer Inquisitor ARPGs, like games that like if you said like to somebody, hey, I have an action RPG for you, an ARPG, they're immediately going to think like Dark Souls, which has its own subcategory, or they're going to think The Witcher or Assassin's Creed.
No, I disagree. I think the ARPG genre as a title is more attached to like Diablo and like Path of Exile. I think now
wrong.
it is.
That's
it might be wrong.
Though.
It might be wrong, but I think that's what the perception is now.
No, I'm saying it's both factually wrong and it's also morally wrong as well.
Okay,
as
fine.
Wrong. I'm just saying, like
every time I see one of those games described, it's always ARPG. It's
I know
never...
but that's what I'm saying. They condensed that term down. Traditionally, for the last 30 years, nobody has called games like that action RPGs. It's just I'm not blaming you for this. It's not your fault. It's just like it's literally like it's what would you call The Witcher?
The Witcher? I think that's an open world RPG.
Jesus fuck. Oh my god.
What? Is that not open world?
Yeah, but it's just like how that doesn't describe how the game plays.
Right.
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. I'm
action
getting tilted.
Yeah. Open world action RPG. There's so many fucking things. It's like.
No. This is absolutely insane to me. This is absolutely insane to me. Hold on. Witcher 3. I'm gonna Google The Witcher 3 right now.
You Google Witcher 3 genre.
Yes, I want to see just what happens. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Go to Witcher 3 Wikipedia page. Genre: action role playing. It's the only thing on there. They don't describe it any other way. Action role playing.
All right.
Let me go to Diablo. I'm gonna go to 2
action role playing.
Hold on. Diablo 2. Action role playing hack and slash. That's so wrong. That's so
I wouldn't consider it a hack and slash.
Yeah. They're both wrong. God damn it. So ridiculous. Like that's ooh, that irks me. It's you have people out there that with action games, right? Action games.
Mm-hmm.
I call action games because action you think of a certain thing. Now, people are trying to say it's like you have character action. It's like what the fuck does that mean? Oh, you play as a character.
I've never heard that before. That's ridiculous.
That's the term, you know. So you play as a character, and that's what. So, Devil May Cry for the longest time, everybody called it an action game. Some people called it a hack and slash. I think hack and slash action game. The main difference between the two is hack and slash is normally like you have a smaller kit, but you're going against hordes of enemies, so it feels a little different. Action games are like more focused action experiences, like an original God of War, or a Devil May Cry. And now people didn't call them that anymore. They said, "Oh no, you're wrong." Even though you've been playing these games for like over 2 decades, you're wrong. They're called character action games. Well, that's something I've never heard of before. And just as I'm like adapting to that in my vernacular, and not that I like say it or anything, I'm just saying it I can. People will say it to me and I'm understanding what they're saying. Oh, that's not good enough anymore. They're called spectacle action games now, or spectacle games, because you're one character doing stylish combos. Like that's part of the reason I'm so pissed right now is like I've got you telling me that people are calling fucking Warhammer Inquisitor, this top-down isometric RPG with minimal action elements, an action RPG. But on the other hand, I have douchebags constantly splitting up the action genre and changing the genre before my eyes. It's just that frustrating to me. Frustrating is all hell to me. Some things are just so. All right.
Okay.
I'm gonna look up Devil May Cry and see what it's called. Action adventure hack and slash. They don't even use action or character action anymore. I'm losing my shit here. Devil May Cry 4. Action adventure hack and slash. Meanwhile, action adventure, I typically say action adventure is like games that are like platformers, but also have a
All
focus
right.
on
So
combat.
if I go to Google and if I search Warhammer 40K Inquisitor Martyr under genres, the first thing that's here is action role playing game, and then this isn't right, shooter game,
See, so
indie game, adventure game, fighting game, adventure. Well, because it has a gun in it.
I need you to that perplexing like tone in your voice where like something didn't sit right with you when you read shooter. That's how I feel when I hear action role playing applied to games from the top, because there's there's two things you could call them. I think the most common.
So Wikipedia, Inquisitor Martyr is an action role playing video game developed and published by blah blah blah.
Okay, so originally a lot of these games, and this was kind of a broader term, I think people adapted isometric at a certain point because it made sense for like it kind of sells you on a very particular camera angle, which attributes a very particular gameplay style to it. But originally these games were called CRPGs, computer role-playing games, because back then they were new. But like, for example, I look up isometric RPG right now. I get all the Baldur's Gate games. I get Hades is on here. That's not fucking right. Jesus Christ. I can't. I'm dying here. Fallout should be on here somewhere. The original Diablo's on here, not Diablo 2. I'm flummoxed. I'm angry and I'm flummoxed. Final Fantasy Tactics? That's wrong. Genres are bullshit. We need to kill everybody. We need to kill fucking everybody and hard reset the industry. Just put me at the top. I'll fix everything eventually. I'll spend the rest of my life doing that.
It'll be okay.
First step, we either kill everybody or we make games non-mainstream, and then step 2, we rebuild. Because this is like, I'm looking at this and this is immensely frustrating. Jesus Christ. So good to be a Warhammer 40K fan.
Oh boy.
Very
good.
Outside of, I mean, I know there's still kind of a war going on with the accounts and like the deeper lore dives, but I guess
I try to stay out of it.
Yeah, I don't know. See, I couldn't do that. Like, if somebody's fucking with the stuff I like behind these,
I got a lot going on in my life. It's not worth my time and energy. I just stay out of that.
I mean, it is worth your time and energy, because at the end of the day, you're getting invested in it.
Well, yeah, but I only have so much bandwidth in my
No, I get that. No.
No,
You don't understand what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying like go online and be angry, because that's stupid. That's not what I'm telling you to do. I'm saying one way or another, you're invested in it, so that it's just a matter of whether you know what they're doing or not. If you don't care, that's fine.
But I know the general gist of it. Right. I understand like what's happening, but I'm not engaging in the online fucking crusade that is.
Like I said, to be completely clear, I'm not telling you to go online and get angry about these kinds of things, because it's really like you need to pick and choose.
That's not worth my time.
Yeah. I'm just saying, like, where we kind of disagree on this is like, if we are invested in something and there's like some kind of fuckery brewing and people that you don't necessarily want touching the things that you like are getting involved in that, like, my response to that is like, all right, I'm done, and I drop it and I move on. Like, some people, I understand,
there's no changing some people's minds, and we both know that.
So why do I have to participate?
Well, I'm not saying you do. I'm not going to fight somebody that, yeah, exactly.
I'm not fighting anybody either. I'm just saying, all right, I'm out.
Yep. Cool. So good time to be a Warhammer fan. Xbox is not doing too great.
Yeah, Xbox isn't doing too great.
Yeah, there's.
I had to get the last word in because you don't care anyway. So let me just get the last word in. Xbox isn't doing too great.
Oh my god. It's like they're trying to destroy themselves.
What news do you bring? What do you want to talk about?
No, nothing. It's just the overall.
You just wanted to touch on it again. The Xbox isn't doing great.
Yeah.
I mean,
we talked about this last week. Like, I'm not. If they announce like the Xbox Series X2 or whatever the fuck they're gonna call it, I don't really have any reason to buy. I don't know why I'm saying this again. I don't. I don't know
No,
why.
I get why. It's you know, you bring up Xbox, you got to talk about whether or not you're interested in a new console. You know, we're inching closer to that new that thing. I mean, the 2 weeks from now.
Oh, we never talked about the Black Ops 6.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Like that's been like they've been ramping up their teaser, you know, circuit that they are want to do with every new Call of Duty, and we're inching closer to the new Xbox. What do they fucking call it? Event? What do they call the events that they
showcase?
Do? Yeah, just a showcase. That's
Xbox
what they call
showcase.
it.
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you know all the companies have different names for it.
So
like
so they're doing
They're
doing the Xbox showcase, and then after the showcase. Right, no, but they're calling it the Black Ops 6 Direct, or the Call of Duty Direct, I guess.
Okay.
Like, Call of Duty has inflated to such a size that you need your own, it needs its own press conference. That's insane.
To be completely fair, any company can do anything they want with that. Like, I think one year, Capcom did a Resident Evil showcase when they had, when Village was still new-ish, and that's when they announced like the gold edition and all those that kind of stuff. But
right,
yeah, so it's just, you know, steady rumblings, because now it's like there's more rumors now that like the Call of Duty on Game Pass deal is more assured than ever. So it's like, it's, you know, more insiders are popping up to say, you know, dude, who knows what they're saying really? You know, who knows what they really know? But, you know, it's just more rumors and rumblings of what could be a massive win for them. But in the meantime, they just
show me some gameplay. I could tell you in like 30 seconds whether or not I'm going to be interested.
I mean, hey, if it does end up on Game Pass, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'll play it regardless. Yeah, true. Very true.
Pop in to pay our respects.
Yep. Pay our respects. Fucking fallen comrade.
Yep.
I still need to I really want to replay Black Ops 1 and 2. That's been something that's eaten at me.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun to be had in the older Call of Duties and the campaigns that are worth like revisiting. I will say I'm not a huge fan of 2's campaign, just because it does like one of those things that I just can't fucking stand in any medium, but in games in particular, it's always like unnecessary time jumps. I just can't do them. It's you don't like multiple. Let me explain why. The main reason I don't like time jumps is because it's typically a waste of potential. Typically speaking,
I see what you're saying.
Like, it's just like,
is there any time jump in anything that you approved of or that you liked?
There are some that like work. Like, for example, Gears of War. Like, you had 1 through 3. They were reasonable. They themselves had time jumps, but nothing major. You were still locked in the conflict with the same characters and following their story. And then 3 to 4, there was a pretty massive time jump. That's acceptable, because that's like a passing of the torch kind of thing. You can sometimes do that, but it's like so many. No,
but I'm not
games.
saying like that's title to title. Like, I'm saying within the story of like a single contained game or movie, for that matter, where there's like a large time jump. Has there been anything that you were okay with?
Not that I can.
I don't even know if you could think of something. Yeah, on the spot.
There's one that kind of does it, like you know, the Ace Attorney games.
I do know of them. Yes.
Okay, so they're like the visual novels. I mean, I think they're pretty good. Their translation is fucking abysmal, but they're fun games overall. The 4th game in the series starts as a time jump, but there is a brief period near the end where you go back to like not literal in a literal sense, but there are flashbacks, large flashback segments that go to like the briefly after the original trilogy lined up, wrapped up. And I'm just like, oh, okay, that's kind of clever, and it plays into the story, and it's like that was kind of okay, even though I think the game itself was an unnecessary time jump, but they still kind of keep it together. I don't know. There's not many that I can think of that do it in a single game, but I look at Black Ops 2, and it's just like they're trying to pick up from where Black Ops 1 ended, but at the same time, how many years is it? Like 40 years into the future?
Something like that.
Yeah, and it's
just
a
like decent amount of time.
Yeah, and I look at it this way, Dan. Afterwards, you had Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4, which were, you know, say what you will about the games, but like kind of listless as far as story is concerned.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of either.
And they were just kind of floating. It's like, oh, look at all the postmodern warfare stuff going on here. You can fly around, and there's gadgets and whatnot. And when was there an interesting story again, Dan?
After Black Ops 4, you mean?
Yeah, like Cold War. Yeah, like Cold War happened, and it was kind of interesting. It was rushed, but it was
I mean, the Cold War didn't do a whole lot for me, honestly. Like the next game that I actually enjoyed the story of was, fuck, I'd have to see a list actually.
So what I'll say, what I was getting at is Cold War had an interesting campaign to me. It was definitely way rushed, and that kind of sucks. But when it comes to Cold War, it immediately is just like, okay, well, we're going back. It's like, so why did you jump ahead in the first place? If the last Black Ops game and this upcoming Black Ops game both take place before Black Ops 2's future story, it's like, why did you make the jump in the first place? Why are we doing mid?
Because they never planned for it. They just needed a different setting for the game, so the game could exist. They didn't plan for that to happen. Like they're just making these games because they make so much money. The fact that they have campaigns in a storyline, I would guarantee you, with the exception of like a handful of developers that actually create them, nobody that is in like the administrative or the executive branch of these companies gives a flying fuck about the lore or the story of Call of Duty. Like it's just about the multiplayer. I've seen no evidence to the contrary.
But the developers do, and that's kind of my point, because it's like,
right, but like they cut the campaign entirely from Black Ops 4. Right, it had one.
It's a tricky conversation to have, but basically what I'm saying is or what I was getting at is like the jumping around in time kind of lost me for it. And on the
but you're saying that the 50 plus years that they jumped ahead in Black Ops 2, and then like you're saying they went even further in 3 and 4, which barely had any story anyway. But if you want to jump ahead to Cold War, which technically took place way before the events of Black Ops 2, then you're asking like, why did you make the time jump? I'm saying they didn't have they were never anticipating making Cold War. Like they knew they were going to make some COD game in like 2022 or whenever it came out, but it was never. Nobody knew that it was going to be Cold War. They didn't care that it was.
Let me rephrase then, because that's not necessarily what I mean to get at. What I mean to get at is, you'll notice that the second that they needed to actually do story content again, they had to go back anyway, and the part and it was something that was in consideration at some point in Black Ops 2's development process, because of the original intended story for Black Ops 2, where it was really supposed to be almost like what is kind of being teased for Black Ops 6, where it's just like, corruption in the government and like shadow wars, and it was like there's a lot of stuff cut. Like I don't know, it's kind of a messy conversation. Basically what I'm getting at is like,
well, it is, because the Call of Duties are all over the place. They're all over the place. It might as well be an anthology series for the game right now, because I couldn't tell you what the fuck is going on in the Black Ops series like after 2. It doesn't matter. The game is only developed for the multiplayer aspect of it. The story is such an afterthought to the people who make the decisions that it doesn't get any resources to begin with. So like Modern Warfare 1 had an okay story. Like the campaign as a whole was pretty good. I enjoyed playing it. The Modern Warfare 2 campaign was okay. 3 was fucking abysmal and criminally short. Like these games are not made with any thought of the story other than the fact of, they've always shipped with the single player option, so we kind of have to do that, and it doesn't even matter anymore. The stories might as well have not even have been connected in the first place at this point. Like it doesn't matter. For me, it's basically an anthology series. I'll take the ride for the individual story of the individual game that I'm playing, but it's not like the original Modern Warfare 1, 2, and 3 that were all a couple years apart and had a like. I was so invested with what was going to happen with Makarov throughout from 1 to 3, like all the way through. And you don't have that anymore. There is no stakes in the single player with COD whatsoever anymore. It doesn't matter. Like it's Warzone and multiplayer, and the only reason multiplayer gets love is because people like to rank their guns up. Like it is, like multiplayer is not so much of an afterthought because some people still enjoy multiplayer. I'm raising my hand.
We still need to do that multiplayer night.
Yeah, it's true. Some people, single player is such an afterthought that it was so obvious that they threw together whatever they had for Modern Warfare 3 and then just fucking facelifted assets off of Warzone and put it in the single player and called it a campaign. It was so bad that like I'm just talking myself in circles here.
That's a
my point is single player discussion. Doesn't matter. Yeah, single player doesn't matter anymore. There is no reason to even concern yourself with it.
No, I'm like, here's the thing. Like, I think our mindsets differ a little bit when it comes to this. Not saying that, like, I don't want it to come across as me calling you someone who's like, oh, you'll just take it or whatever, because that's not really the case. If somebody really, shit in your cereal, you're not going to sit there and eat it. But it's when we look at something like, oh, the single player doesn't matter anymore. It's like I look back and I see when there was somewhat cohesion in the story, like.
Right, and I agree with you.
Yeah,
it's not that way anymore. But I don't like it. But it's just the facts of the matter.
Yeah, no, that's what. But basically, so what I mean to say is, what this kicked off from is like you looking at that part of it, that brief glimmer where you had them kind of go back to the original setting is when the story picked back up again, even if it's not necessarily completely stable or completely great. That's when you could come back and kind of see like, oh, things are kind of better now, is when they went back, which is part of the reason I hate time jumps. I think, not to get caught up in like multiple conversations, I'm just trying to like kind of close it out, is the reason I hate time jumps is particularly for one of the many reasons that the Black Ops sub-series kind of like faltered for me, is because you squander potential with your characters and filling in the slots with things to do with those characters. I think there are a lot more egregious examples in the industry than a Call of Duty. Black Ops 2 comes to mind because of it's just like you get to see what these characters were doing in the time that you are actively skipping, and then much later you go and you kind of acknowledge like, hey, they can do things, and you add them back. But I think looking at it, I think the most egregious example of time skips in the industry is probably Resident Evil. That's the one I can think the most of, because it's just like, if you want to talk about messy developments, I could, talk up and down about Resident Evil, because like every single game in the series had a messy development or was meant to be a different game at a certain point or got shuffled around as far as, what builds they were talking about. But one of the many results of the troubled developments is time jumps all over the place, which I don't like.
Yeah.
But I guess we'll see about the new Call of Duty. It kind of looks all right.
On that one.
And when I say kind of looks all right, it's like, it might be on Game Pass, so it's like, it's a little bit more tolerable.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I don't really have much else to talk about. I guess we'll find out what happens with COD in the next couple of weeks.
COD and Xbox. I'll be honest, like Call of Duty, it's a yearly thing. We've talked up and down about it. I am very curious. Like, how long do we know how long the Xbox showcase is going to be?
It's probably going to be like an hour. That's usually what they are.
An hour, you think? Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, if it is an hour, I was thinking more like 35, 40 minutes.
If anything, like 45 minutes. That's usually the standard.
Hopefully they cram a lot into that. Like, I don't want to see fucking, whatever.
You're going to see a lot of indie games. You're going to see a lot of...
I don't want to see, and I'm saying this now so that I can be very disappointed when it happens and I can rant about it. Because the day that showcase falls, I'm pretty sure that's like a day we record. So it's like that all that stuff's going to happen. I think it's the 6th, right?
Is it the 6th or is it the 9th?
Let's find this out.
Xbox showcase. date. Yeah, it's the 9th.
Okay, never mind. I take it back.
Which makes it what day of the week? It is
it's a Sunday.
Sunday. Yeah.
All right, so I'll have time to digest it. But basically, I'm telling you right now what I don't want to see. I don't want to see people sitting in front of a screen talking to me about how wonderful the game industry is and how.
Oh, it's gonna happen. You know it's gonna happen.
I don't want to see. I don't want to see. I don't want to see a single cinematic trailer followed by some fucking intern with a fucking side cut talking to me about how wonderful the game's gonna be. I need you to come out swinging. I need to see some gameplay. I need to see some fucking. I need to see some good.
If Xbox doesn't understand this, like this sentiment that you're having right now, then I hesitate to use the word doomed, but they're just in a real bad way. Like you can't just show cinematic trailers and release dates, or basically just fucking placeholders, because all those releases are bullshit anyway. And with an intern talking about how good it is working at a development studio. Like they need to come out swinging with heavy hitting IPs. Fucking Halo, let that sit and let that cook. It's finally in a good state. Leave it the fuck alone. You know, I mean, what else do they have besides Gears? Anything else that they just bought?
Maybe. I mean, I think
like a new Doom game would be nice.
We'll see what happens. I mean, I think what I said last time, or what I said, I don't know if I said it on the podcast or if I said this in private conversation, but like they have a very strong ace in the hole with Call of Duty on Game Pass. Like that's an amazing fallback, but you still want to build as much momentum and goodwill as possible. Like now's the time. Like you can't settle for like, oh, I have pocket aces, you know. So that means I can just. Do you think that
they're going to announce? Actually, I have a really good question for you. I think I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you think that if they are going to announce COD on Game Pass, which it would be a fucking mistake if they don't, but if they do announce it, do you think that would be during the Xbox showcase or during the COD Direct event?
I think it will either open or end with it.
On what on
event? I think so. Here's what I think is going to happen, or just because this is speculative on a speculation, I think it's either going to open with a Game Pass advertisement where they suddenly announce Call of Duty is going to be on Game Pass, or they're going to end it with Call of Duty's coming to Game Pass. Here is the next greatest Call of Duty. I think it's one of those two things.
The Xbox event or the COD event?
This is during the Xbox event. I'm saying is basically
the Xbox event. They're on 2 different days, so that's why I'm asking.
When is the Call of Duty event?
It's the day after the Xbox event.
Okay, so I think it's very likely that's what's based on that. I thought they were right next to each other. Basically, what I think it is now is. I think
wait. No, they might be. They might be. You might be right.
Double check, and I'll tell you exactly what I think.
Okay. COD Direct date, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
No. Black Ops 6 Direct date. Yeah, it's right after. It's on the same day.
Same day? Okay, so I think it's going to. I think it's very likely that the event is going to end with Call of Duty coming to Game Pass. Here's the next great Call of Duty. And then the event will be right after the same thing. Yeah, the only other alternative
is fucking explode.
Yeah, the only other alternative I could really see, if they do announce it, of course, is that the Xbox event proper opens with like a Game Pass, like kind of not a round table, but like how they kind of like do one of those like sizzle reels, and they kind of show all the different offerings. I think it's either going to be at the end where they just talk about Call of Duty, or it's going to be right at the beginning in one of those sizzle reels as like a surprise opener. One of those two. If you want to just have a little fun with those kind of predictions, that's what I think would make the most sense. It's definitely not like, by the way, in the middle,
Yeah, I think it'll be at the very end after they show, or it could be, here's the next trailer for here's the gameplay trailer for Black Ops 6, and then at the end of the gameplay trailer, it's coming to Game Pass, or it's at the very end of the event, the last thing they say, just to get like a huge pop from the crowd.
That could be part of it. I mean, it could be that they talk about Call of Duty as a series coming to Game Pass, and then they save the Black Ops 6 on Game Pass announcement for the very end. They could do that too. So we'll see what happens.
I would love if they brought all the old CODs to Game Pass. That would be a huge slam dunk. Huge slam dunk for so many people.
Yep.
Us included.
I will say that just to kind of push this is like I do think it's inevitable at a certain point that we're going to get Call of Duties on Game Pass. It's just a matter of what fashion. All the rumors now say, everything's coming to Game Pass. There's that massive rumor that they're saying the next Xbox console will be 2026 and it will launch day one with the Call of Duty of that year. That would be massive for them. That would be huge for them.
Yeah, it would be.
But I will say, like, to kind of like save themselves now, that they need to start leveraging that. And I think it is more possible than people think, just because of the fact that, remember when Diablo 4 hit? I think this was before the Activision deal finalized, and like the game director, one of the guys at the top of Diablo 4's team, said something like, "Oh, it's not a Game Pass kind of game. We don't see it ever coming to Game Pass." And then when the deal closed, very shortly or relatively shortly afterwards, boom, it's on Game Pass. So it's like they're willing to, shift that weight around if they want to. And I think this is the time. Hopefully, the worst thing they could do is internally say like, we're confident on our lineup, we can save the Call of Duty thing for a different time, and then just have like a subpar offering. But I don't want to say I'm super confident in Xbox, but I think they are understanding of the position they are in going into this event. So we'll see something.
Yeah, I would agree.
I won't say it'll be a slam dunk for them, but I will be surprised if both of us leave that event without some kind of like, not hopefulness, but like excitement for something that will be seen that day. That's where my head's at with that.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah,
I would certainly hope so. Well, I don't really have anything else to say, to talk about, to bring up.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I got too.
Yeah, so
relatively
I think
still
that's
a lot of big news in a lot of very particular areas. The rest of it's just kind of dour, grim, or niche, and not really worth talking about unless you want to hear me sit here and rant about Japanese culture erosion and fucking Mario games.
No, please, I can't.
Yeah, it's a super niche topic, and like I'm still waiting for the dust to settle on that, because like these Mario fans, specifically the Paper Mario fans, are fucking zealots. Like they'll hound you for like days. And that's like some. It's just like I'm not. Listen. I'm not afraid of people or anything like that. But it's like I don't give a shit about Paper Mario. I liked the one on 64, so I'm not about to jump into a conflict about a remake to a sequel that I didn't particularly care for, even if there is some chicanery going on there. So I'll just. Yeah. I'll tuck it away in the news hole, and that'll be my satisfactory foot in the door, so to speak.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
All right, well, I think that about does it for this episode of the pod.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening, anybody who has been listening, and we shall see you next week.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.